There we go. I think should be recording. There we go. Okay, let's see. Today we are going to be going over seeding your Postgres database with a Docker startup. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. Well, actually, let me share. Let me see how this goes. I don't know how. I wanted to see if something can work. So if I share, I guess I only see Kurt. What I wanted to see was a show of hands. So first of all, show of hands if you know how to use the show of hands feature. Great. We got some hands up here. This is good. So people know how to use the show of hands. Okay, cool. So yeah, on hand, put your hand back down. And the question then is, show of hands, who has run a DB net script when they bring up their database? So they bring up their database, Postgres database using Docker, and it runs a DB init script, and it maybe creates some tables or creates some permissions, creates a schema, something like that, right? So a lot of people, fair number of people, we got 5 or 6 people have done that, right? Or at least of the people that know how to use the show your hand feature. How about the seeds? So you've brought up a database locally, and now you want to seed it, right? Anybody done that where you bring up the database, bring up some tables and seed it? Oh, you got some people. All right. So maybe you can tell me if I'm doing it the right way or the wrong way. So I'm going to show you one way that we're doing it today. I know a lot of people use migrations. I probably should have asked that as well, but I don't think I have to. I think if I asked who's run like Connects migrations or something to that effect, probably half the room in here now, right? So, all right, let's go ahead and go into this, and I will then, oops, that didn't work. Get out of there. It's not going to go away. Anyway, I'm going to go into this. Hopefully, can you see my screen? Somebody, I can't see you now, so confirm that you can see my VS Code screen. Somebody's shout out.
Yep.
Yes, we can see.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. So I've got a really basic application here, right? In fact, it's not even an application. It's just a Docker Compose file that's going to spin up a Postgres instance locally here, right? I've commented some things out. So when I bring this up, and so I'm going to just say, Docker Compose up. I'm using Zish, Zish, right? So I can use DCUP for Docker Compose up. So this is going to bring up my database locally, and it has done absolutely nothing, right? It's spun up a bare bones database for me. I've got, let me reconnect, make sure it's here. So I've got, just the default schemas, no tables, right? So first steps are, we're going to want to run an init script that's going to bring up some tables for us. So this might be an application where you might have a dependency, right? There could be an example use case where you can run migrations in here, and I can talk about that. But first of all, you may have noticed that I'm not using the default Postgres image here, and what I'm set up is a local image that I'm going to build and run that. So what is that? Let me show you what that is. So this is saying, hey, build the context of database. So in here, I've got a Docker file, and here I'm going from Postgres 13 Alpine as my base, and I'm adding in Node.js and npm, and I'm doing that specifically because we're going to use our traditional connects for seeds. You could also use this for running your migrations as part of your init scripts as well. In this case, I didn't set that up that way. Don't need this. That was just testing something. So the first thing here is we're going to be copying in an init script. And for those who, there's a lot of show of hands, but for those who don't know, anything you copy into the Docker entry point initdb.d folder for Postgres is going to run the first time Postgres starts up. So any subsequent times, in fact, I can, this is up right now. If I spin this down and I bring this back up, you'll notice everything you saw up here. There's some, there's all this messaging, right? If I just bring this up again, I don't get all that messaging. It's right here. It tells you skips the initialization. The database was already spun up for a first time, and I have a volume, so it just reattached that volume. So that's that's important that we're copying this into the script folder. So it's only going to be executed once. So what is that? Before we go further and look at the seeds and anything else, I'm copying in my init db. And here I've actually commented out for now. So let me uncomment this. So this is now saying, hey, I'm going to run PSQL on a script file. And in this case, I'm saying that the script file is going to be at some location on this, in this container. You could have put the script directly in that initdb directly in this initdb directory. But there's a benefit to having this a little bit separate, and I can show you what that is here. Here I've got my init script, so I can say exactly what I want to do in this init file now. So I've got this one init file. If anything you copy into this directory is just going to execute in the order of alphabetical. So whatever's in there, so you have to be, intentionally say, hey, I want this to execute first, then this to execute, and maybe you come up with a scheme of numbering it like 0, 1, 0, 2, etc. But by doing this, you can not only have your SQL here, but you can run any other scripting that you need to do. So we're going to do that for our seeds, and you could do that for migrations as well. So so the first thing is it's going to execute this init SQL file, and that has been copied in because we copied over package.json, connects file, init, config, and seed. So this init copied over this init directory with init SQL and the seed.sh. And so in here, I've got a bunch of roles and configuration, but down here at the bottom, this is where I'm going to create one table. So for this demo purposes, we're going to just seed, create and end up seeding this country table. So now, if I Docker compose down cdn -v, that's going to bring it down and remove the volumes. So removing the Postgres demo, the network, and the volume. So now when we bring this up, it's going to actually, I need to double check because there's actually one thing I commented out. And I commented out because I wanted to kind of discuss this and highlight this as well. So this first one here is a volume. And this is where, when I bring this up, I bring it down and bring it back up again. This is maintaining a Docker managed volume for the database. And so that's mapped into the database itself, and that's the data directory. That's delegated, saying that the container is the source of truth. The container is the one writing to that volume. The rest of these are going to be cached, and these I'm just pointing to local files here, local mappings. And the reason I'm doing this is so I don't have to continuously run Docker compose build on this. So each one of these kind of just maps in a specific file. So this one's mapping in that DB file that we just looked at. That's this little teeny guy here. And it's going to map that into the containers directory there. So now we can make changes to that without running a new Docker compose build and test that out. So similarly with the init directory, the config directory, the seeds directory, package.json, and connects file. The reason that I'm not just mapping everything in is because also inside this container at the same level is here I copied those in, and this last step here is, and this is important here, I'm not changing the working directory because Postgres needs to maintain its working directory. So I didn't, instead of changing the working directory and then changing it back, the only thing I need to do is I need to cd into this directory and run npm install because we copied over the package.json. We're going to be using connects and config and pg to run our seeds. Again, you could also run migrations with this. So let's see. So now I've uncommented this. So now everything that is any changes I make are gonna now make those live. So if I brought that down, so I can clear this again, and I can Docker compose up, and you'll see here it ran all of our create scripts. And last thing here is the create table. And now here you'll see that the after the init script is done, what Postgres does is it shuts down and it restarts. It's at this point when it's doing its initialization, it's not ready to accept connections, right? So if you tried to connect to this before it does its shut down and restart, it's not ready. So after it shuts down, it comes back up, and now it says ready for startup, And finally down here, ready to accept connections, right? So now if we go back over to here and reconnect and check our, so now I created a geo schema, that's new. And now I've got the geo countries table here. It's empty. We haven't done the seeding yet. So I'm going to go through and explain that, show that. So I mentioned, let's see, where is it? So here we're going to want to uncomment this, right? We're going to say, hey, let's do this one now. This is going to call, and this is going to call sh and seed.sh. And you'll notice what the ampersand is doing. There's an ampersand at the end here. And what the ampersand does at the end of a command is it runs it as a separate thread, essentially. It runs it in a new process. So it allows this process to continue while the other process gets kicked off. So the seeds.sh is going to be kicked off in a separate process, and Postgres is going to continue to shut down and restart and come back up the way it needs to. And that's important because now if I come over here and show you what's going to happen in seed.sh is I've got a while loop here. And so it's getting kicked off immediately. So at that point, Postgres is not ready. Postgres has a function or a command for PG is ready, and it's going to return true or false, essentially, whether or not Postgres is ready. And until it does its restart, it's not ready yet for accepting connections. So this is doing a sleep 1 second until Postgres is ready. Once it is ready, we're just going to cd back into that directory where we put everything and run npm seed. So if I come back here, and again, if I bring this back up again, I didn't Docker compose down -v, right? So I still have the volume. It didn't initialize any new tables, and it didn't initialize the seeds, right? So this is where it's nice. Like, let's say you're switching branches, and there's some changes in it, and you want to wipe out your volume, right? Now to bring this back up, it's going to Docker compose up. It's going to run all of our creates, and here you can see it's shutting down, right? I had a comment in the one file here to say echo seeds waiting for PG is ready. So here you can see it triggered that. It called to see if PG is ready. It's not ready yet, so it's sleeping. The database shuts down, comes back up already because it's pretty fast, and it's already able to accept connections. And now we've got an accepting connection, and this is our seed ran and ran one seed file. So again, now if I come back over here, I probably have to reconnect. And we have data. So that's essentially how we are bringing up our tables and seeding our data. This is specifically for the geo database. And now I can show you the larger demo. But before I do, any questions or comments? Anybody that's doing seeding another way, or is people seeding the same way, or is it what are other folks doing?
I know in CIA we're doing it really similarly, except instead of seeding from that initialization script, we're seeding from a command on the server when it all starts up.
Oh yeah, so Postgres natively supports, you can natively support seeds coming into the database. The reason we actually went this route and just using connects is because we already supported connects seeds. Connect seeds are nice, so you can have the files. I didn't show this off. So when you do connect seeds, you can do them as JSON, or there's a lot of, I think you can do them as CSV or in other formats as well. But I mean, having it in JSON format is actually really nice. When you seed natively using Postgres seeds, it has to be in comma separated value format, which is not so bad for something like this. This data would lend itself very nicely to that. But in our Groot application, and actually other applications as well, we have a lot of people are using JSON-B columns. And once you start mixing that into it, JSON-B inside of a CSV is really not so pretty, because then you have to worry about escaping everything everywhere. So I don't know if that's something that you're using, or using the native Postgres seeding.
No, we're actually using Connect seeding, but instead of doing it on the server, on the database initialization, we have it as a, I'm looking at this now, we have it as a command that runs after our server has started up.
Oh, okay. So yeah, and that's where a lot of people do that. And that's what we were doing as well in a lot of our applications is you'd bring up the application, it might, and it'd run the migrations, but you'd still have to run the seeds manually. You'd have to kick off another script that would just run the seeds. And so, yeah, it was always a two-step. And so this was an attempt to just change that. So that instead of having it be 2 steps now, again, it's bring it back down. I can, Docker compose down -v, wipes everything out, right? And Docker compose up. And this does everything for us. It brings up our database, our tables, and the seeds all in one go.
To kind of like go along with what Peter was saying. So we always have, like, we don't ever run a database just by itself. So we always have our server and our database, right? And our database and our database image is just Postgres. It doesn't install npm or node into the image. So our server already has node and npm and connects and all the migrations inside of that image, inside that container. So we have all of our seeds inside of our server. So what we do is we spin up the database. Database runs the init and which isn't anything. Like the init doesn't even have any table definitions. It's just the schema name and like the like admin users and stuff, right? And then when the server starts up, so what Peter was talking about is like when the server starts up, instead of running npm start, we run a shell script that does, and we do this only on automation, not on the actual server, but through an automation, then we run wait for PG is ready, then run my npm migrate, then npm run seeds, and then server start. So that's kind of what we're doing differently.
Yeah, no, and that makes sense. I get that. And let's see, how do I get this up here? There we go. You can close this one down. Get rid of that. There we go. Yeah, so in this case for Geo, and we do this for Groot now, these are special cases where we are explicitly creating all the tables because we don't manage that schema. So the Geo is a data warehouse managed database. So yeah, I think what you're describing here makes more sense where you have all the migrations, you own the database and you own the schema, and so you bring that up. In our case, yeah, we have we don't own the schema, so we had to grab all the tables that we need to get here. So there's a lot of tables. You can see the script on the right here. And similarly, we nabbed all the seed data, and where do I have all that now? Oh, that's the generate seeds. So seeds. So yeah. So this is our Geo database, and so yeah, we do grab all the seed data. And yeah, we were running. Originally, we were running this where we'd bring up the database, and then we'd have a script that we could run that would execute because the seeds would be copied into the image, and we could run that. But yeah, so for example, again, yeah, this is let's see, let me go open up the compose for this. So yeah, this is an example of the Geo service where it's got the Geo and it's got the Postgres, and I think that's it. It's just the two. So this one's fairly small as well, but again, I can Docker compose down this guy, and I can bring it up, and it's going to bring up the services, the Postgres. It's going to create all the tables and run the seeds for us as well. Might take a little while. I don't know how much data is in there. There we go. Seed files are in. So that's run. And if I can go to our local host. Whatever our docs is. And yes, and then I can run this the same way. It's just here, like the countries, for example. Of course, I break something, right? Oh, sorry. I clicked on the plus on the sort by. There we go. I guess it's giving me all countries, and there's quite a few. But yeah, it's a similar concept. But yeah, for applications where you manage the migrations, Yeah, I'd be curious to see how it's implemented in CIA. Because I guess what I was envisioning is if we did have migrations as well, that we could just move that into, instead of the c.sh, this could, wait for PG to be ready, and then it could instead as well just run, npm, run migrate, right, or something like that.
Yep.
But yeah, so, and then let's see, where is it? Let me open up Groot, for example, because Groot's a little bit different. Groot we had split and we put it into 2 databases, and we actually do own migrations there as well, but only the migrations on the API schema. So we have a data schema that we don't own migrations on, and let's see. So this one. So here we have, and actually Groot also is using the hyperloglog plugin. So we actually, this one actually had a build file originally, and this is where we added this into it. So we were copying in our initdb script. So with Groot, obviously there's a lot of data there. We bring over some C data, so we seed it for our local development and local and for the server testing. So when it's running the CI tests, it has data there, and this one was set up where we have, this one might be a little bit more complicated to explain in this demo, because one thing that we did here is, and I'm losing it. Hold on, let me close up some of these windows. We had the init, and because we split the database between media and publisher, we had to create these dummy files, and these dummy files are here because once there's an init SQL for media and there's an init SQL for publisher, because there's different tables, right? So there's different ag tables that are in each. There's quite a few, right? So that was handled via the Docker Compose in each one of these. So you can see there's a Postgres pub and a Postgres media, and each one of these then maps in the specific init file, as well as the seed files, right? Because media has different tables, it's going to have different seeds, as well as it also has a different connects file that's being used. And we're still sharing the same config and connects file that the applications are using. So this is mapping those in. It just allows us to utilize this. So again, I can come over here and then we can kill this and dcdn-v, bring down geoservice, cd into Groot, and I can, before I bring it up, let me make sure dcdn-v. So we wipe it out, right? Make sure that Groot's got no data, and I can bring this up. So it's going to create all the volumes, create the services, and soon you'll see a bombardment of all the tables and everything that's created. And then migrations, because we run our migrations as well there. You can see the seed file. So we ran 20 seed files on the publisher. I must have missed, yeah, there's 6 seed files on the media. And then migrations as well. And so all that, after all that came up, so now we have Groot locally as well. And so everything has data in here. And that's all, again, you could check out the repo without having to do anything and just run a Docker Compose up, and you can spin up Groot locally with the full, full subset of data, right? We only have, these are our test companies, right? So we only have like a subset of companies and publishers in here, not everything.
And you just do that for local dev, right? Not what you deploy.
Local dev and CI.
And CI, right? Cool.
Mm-hmm. I don't know why that one didn't return data. There we go. So I guess 2000 doesn't have data in our local. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's again, we have the I got this little basic seeds demo. I'm going to push this up just so folks can use this as an example, because this is pretty simple and tiny. Groot is more of a very more complex scenario, because because we have a split database. So it's got different inits, different seeds going into it. But then, yeah, we also have our geo database itself, which I, pulled this from as an example to kind of do that. But yeah, I think the key for us was figuring out that, hey, we just can run this in a separate process. There was some issues of like trying to run the seeds, as part of this init scripts, as part of this, initdb. But until Postgres restarts, it's not ready to accept connections, so you can't use connects to do that. So that was the last little hurdle for us in getting us, to be able to do these seeds as part of the init. And that's all I got. Any questions or any other ideas or feedback? No? All right. Well, so Nate and Peter, I'm gonna have to definitely check out the work that you've done in CIA and see what you got for seeds for an idea there. But yeah, if this helps anyone else, that's cool. If nobody else is running seeds, it's pretty cool. I think it's something I think we want to do in more of our projects now, where we can seed some of the data for testing. As if you spin up a service, I don't know about you, but anytime I wipe out the volumes and reload it, it's kind of frustrating to have everything empty and blank slate again. So it'd be nice to have some defaults in the database.
Cool.
Yeah, cool stuff. Yeah, we use it in CIA for our automation tests, so we can seed like specific users in there, like specific client users, and have client users that have accepted agreements and client users that haven't accepted agreements, so we can go through and then run automation tests around them. So it's been pretty pretty beneficial.
Absolutely.
I don't think our automation tests would have been a nightmare without those seed scripts.
Yeah, you'd have to like set up tests that would like initialize everything for you.
Exactly. You'd have to like write an automation test that went through and logged in the user, accepted an agreement, and then went back and then relogged in the user and made sure that it wasn't, but then like made sure that we didn't use that user someplace else, because then maybe he would like had to not have whatever. Yeah. It would have been a nightmare.
That sounds
absolutely.
like work.
Yeah, I don't want to do work. It's Friday.
Yep.
Oh,
Well, cool. Yeah, thanks for the feedback and thanks for the ideas. And I'm glad to see that there's some other people also doing it. So and I want to check that out. But yeah, again, if this helps anyone else, I can shoot out the links. I can put up the repo. So if you want to just ping me on that, I can help you out there.
cool.
Yeah, and yeah, go eat some seeds, beans, and legumes, and everything else.
Thanks, Ryan.
No problem. Thanks, guys.
Ryan.
Bye.
Thanks, Ryan.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Ryan.
All right.